I'm going to record this for future playback use. And so we have, we've got a very fun day set up for you. So as you're getting settled in, thanks for spending your lunch with us. Today's webinar is how to develop a comprehensive digital marketing strategy to grow your business. I am proudly partnered up with a good friend of mine, a two-time DOYO Liver, both presenter and workshop leader, Deanna Facillo, not to be mistaken. I'm on the left. My name is Dennis Schiraldi. I'm the founder of DOYO Live Digital Marketing Interactive Design Conference, coming to you for our third installation on August 2nd of 2018. But more importantly, let's get to the topic at hand. And also, let's hear from our co-presenter, Deanna Facillo. Deanna, are you on? Can you hear me?
I'm here. Yes. Can you hear me?
All right. Yeah, absolutely. Loud and clear.
Awesome. Awesome.
So cool.
Thanks
so we're going to,
Deanna.
Oh, no, absolutely. I appreciate you being able to provide some support into this. We want to make this as interactive as we possibly can throughout the course of today. So we are going to launch some polling questions, and we would also love to hear from you in the Q&A. There's a chat, so feel free to take advantage of all that good stuff, especially the Q&A. We'll either address those questions during the webinar or at the end of the live webinar. All of you are muted. And we just want to thank our sponsors for today's webinar. First and foremost, Integrated IT Group. They will help you with big IT projects, manage the day-to-day, and even small business solutions for you. They help implement solutions, manage security, all sorts of good stuff. They're a year-long sponsor of DOYO Live. And also Valley Digital Services. Their parent companies, WFMJ and The Vindicator, and they can also help you with a comprehensive digital strategy. I'm glad to have them as a part of our conference coming back for the second year as well. So today's agenda, this is an eye chart. I apologize for that, but really what we want to do at the end of the day is talk about how you develop a digital strategy that's going to generate ROI for your business. We're going to use some examples of the DOYO Live model, what we've used that you can copy and implement in your business. We want to get into some of the technology because that's also going to be a big, important aspect of your digital marketing strategy. How do you show up on first page of Google and all sorts of other fun stuff along the way. So first of all, if any of you are familiar with Simon Sinek, it always has to start with the why. What path are you going to be heading down? What are you looking to achieve? What results do you want? Are you looking to create some brand awareness for your company? Is it a lead gen acquisition, which is obviously where you measure your tangible ROI? Or are you looking to grow maybe some of your existing customers? Whatever that may be, setting out on this venture of understanding why you want to do that. In addition to that, another very important factor is setting your strategy. So what I like to do, SMART goals are, something that are out there in marketing today. You hear that term. Set a measurable goal, something that's achievable. Know your audience, know your brand, watch your competition, get ready to measure. Those are the things that I think are important when you're starting out to set a digital strategy. Keeping in mind that all of these strategies that come in play coincide with a buyer's journey, the pathway that people take, whether you're in a B2B or B2C environment, of how people are going to go through and make their buying decisions. So why it's important for you to have a digital strategy, if you're not convinced yet in 2018, it's because 90% of all buying decisions start with online search. It doesn't matter if it's a cheeseburger, a TV, a job, whatever it is that you're looking for, it generally will start with you looking online. And Google dominates 93% of this web traffic. A lot of it's heading over to voice. Human beings, people in general, it doesn't matter if you're a millennial or if you're Gen X and you're slowly becoming less angry at the world, you spend about an average of 5 to 7 hours per day online. That's 27 to 32 hours a week digesting digital media. The average adult, again, across all people, 18 to 65-year-olds, average about 4 to 7 hours per day on social media. And the average person has about 5 social media accounts. That doesn't say that you use them every day, but the shiny new toy on Snapchat or Pinterest that you forgot you had that dormant account exists. So this is where the eyeballs are. This is where the activity is. Mobility is the second other factor that's behind all this digital consumption. So 2 years ago, mobile search surpassed desktop in a lot of industries. If you're peering into your Google Analytics, it will tell you this. Your industry might be a little bit different. But at the end of the day, just to give you some interesting statistics that are out there. Again, this is where the eyeballs are, and even conversion starting to happen. On Black Friday from Shopify, there were $1 billion in sales. 64% of those took place in a mobile environment. People check their phone, and maybe you're guilty of this. Let's see a show of hands, over and under, 85 times a day. Are you an average human being? Or are you an overachiever? The 150 times a day falls into that younger millennial crowd. So we've got a couple of people with hands up. I can certainly tell you that I look at my phone. The first thing I do when I wake up in the morning, unfortunately, I don't think that's very healthy for me, but that's what I do. And there's a lot of people that are out there. So the reason why you got to have a strong digital marketing strategy is the fact that you've got so many decisions being made in so much time, and that's where the eyeballs are spending the time. So this is where we really get into starting with your online storefront. I'm pulling my friend Deanna into this part of this conversation as well. All of your digital marketing strategy really has to come back and focus around with your online storefront, and that's being your website. It has to be elegantly designed, super responsive. So Deanna, a couple of questions for you, kind of just to add some color to this. What's so important from a brand perspective when they're starting out with a digital strategy, whether they have a website or need to replace it? Why is it important to have, obviously, a storefront being your website that speaks to the world of who it is, who you are, and what you do?
Oh, wow. Well, I mean, there's a ton of reasons to have it. Obviously, people want to go to your website. They want to know more about you, and you need to have something out there for them to learn more about you, to purchase your products. I mean, you want it to look aesthetically appealing, right? You want people to want to stay on there. So the first thing they're going to look at when they go to your website is, how does it look? How does it feel? What colors are you using? And I'm big in color psychology, but what colors are you using? And how are you going to keep them on your site? But then aside from, as you know, the way that it initially looks to the end user, there's a lot going on. You want to make sure that that site's optimized and that it's going to come up in the search engines, and that you're using the right keywords and you're doing all the right stuff when it's built, so that you continue to drive traffic to your site so that you get sales ultimately.
Yep. So let's get into that a little bit, because that's going to be a part of the strategic conversation. But at the end of the day, when you go to a website, you want to see, like, what does it look like? Does it represent the brand? Is it somebody that I want to do business with? Or is it kind of dated? And does that mean that the business is dated? So it's extremely important from a brand perspective. Deanna, you've got some thoughts here about how you build, websites and whatnot. There's a lot of different platforms, content management systems that you could build websites on today that, are everything from almost free to, how much do you want to pay in going down the path of, obviously a developer. If you're looking at this chart, which blend of content management systems do you typically look to build a website on?
Well, Dennis, everyone who knows me, and I mean, you know me well, WordPress is ultimately my favorite. And I'll get into why that's my favorite. But to be honest, there's a lot of great platforms. I mean, you've got Weebly and Wix and Squarespace out there. And I think there's something for everybody. You just have to look at what your goal is and what metrics that you actually want to achieve, on which one you're going to utilize. Weebly, it's just a drag and drop, as well as Wix. You can use those. But when you're looking at, again, search engine optimization, that's such a big piece. I think a lot of times when people are building their own site, right? It's easy to go to Weebly or Wix or Squarespace and build it because it's really user friendly. And you can make a very pretty looking website using any of those platforms. But the reason that I tend to favor WordPress over the other ones is because of the search engine optimization that has a lot more capability and a lot more power behind it based on what plugins you may use. There's one plugin that I use a lot that is almost like a guide for people to learn how to really optimize their site the right way. So yes, I'm a big fan of WordPress.
Well, 74 million websites around the world today are built on the WordPress platform. So obviously it has its merits, and it's what the DOYO Live website is built upon. Although we have recently got into looking at Square a little bit more closely, and I think that when they launched their big advertising campaign during the Super Bowl last year, they started to take some market share away. Mm-hmm. But some of the key elements that are going to be really important from, just to reiterate and to expand upon what Deanna has mentioned, and is that the website's key elements got to make sure that it's obviously elegantly designed and something that people that want to look and engage with. You'll notice that websites that tend to keep your attention will keep you moving down the page. They have great content. They're responsive across multi-device because so many people are looking at websites on mobile. The speed is incredibly important, not just from your perspective of saying, boy, I'm not going to stick around if it doesn't download quickly, but also that's a ranking factor in search engine optimization or SEO. Is it have brand consistency? There's something called phygital, and that's an actual term that's being thrown around now. Does your physical branding look like your digital branding? Lead gen, does it have squeeze pages or landing pages? And obviously keywords done in the right way that are reflective of your industry. Anything I'm missing here that you'd like to add to key elements in web design, Deanna?
Oh, I think you hit all of them, honestly. I mean, I think those are all really important.
So when we were putting together this presentation, this was my proudest moment here. Search engine optimization, otherwise known as SEO, otherwise known as the unicorn of the internet. And the reason I say that is if you ask 10 SEO experts on what's a good SEO strategy, you'll get 9 different answers. We know that there's some basic fundamentals that come along with all of search engine optimization that really at the end of the day, the reason why you do it, it's to get you found, get your business found on the first page in the first few spots on Google. Generally, 72% of all search traffic, not only 93% goes through Google, 72% goes to the first 3 spots. If you're not in that conversation, it's a big, difficult conversation to have because you're not getting found. And so as the least sexy part of business and branding and marketing is the pragmatic, fundamental consistency approach, and the best power forward of all time, probably debatable with some of the people that are on this today. But Tim Duncan, obviously known as the big fundamental, just had basically a 20-plus year NBA career and put 5 rings on his fingers while he was doing that, or 4 rings, NBA rings. And it was just by showing up and doing the fundamental things on a daily basis. I apologize, by the way. I'm getting a note saying that we got a little bit of an unstable internet connection. So hopefully it's not too bad on your end. Most important thing for ranking high, especially in local search. So if you're a big national company, it becomes a little bit more difficult to break through, big, large national, multinational brands. But basically in your local environment, you want to show up high in search. First of all, you got to take a nap, and not the nap that, you're sprawled out in the middle of the afternoon. Name, address, and phone number consistency across all of your digital landscape and ecosystem is incredibly important. Because if not, what Google will do is it will index each of those different addresses as a different Google listing. And essentially, you'll be fighting with yourself for real estate. So it literally comes down to, if you put in street and you have another listing on maybe Facebook that's ST with the abbreviation, Google's going to look at that in two different ways. So your local listings management on your website, on every footer of your website, it has to remain consistent. So name, address, and phone number, very key element to ranking high in search. The next thing that you want to do, whether or not you've got a website that you're building or you currently have, there are a ton of free tools out there. And this plays into search engine optimization. How fast does your website perform? Page speed tools. The better performing the website, the higher it gets ranked in one of the factors that ranks it in Google. You can go to Google right now with a ton of free tools out there and do a speed test, and it will come back and it will tell you, what's your speed on mobile, what's your speed on desktop, and it will even make recommendations. You can do a mobile friendly search with Google. So you can go right now and run a test. All you have to do is go to Google, type in Google mobile friendly test, and you basically put in your URL and you'll run a test and it'll spit back some data as to whether or not it's friendly. Again, a ranking factor in SEO marketing is that you've got to be able to have a responsive design across different platforms, meaning that device, meaning laptop, desktop, mobile with iPads and pads, smart tablets, and things like that. Then you've got Google My Business. Google My Business is a really powerful, really important tool that sits on the back end of Google that all of you have the ability to be able to go out and claim your Google My Business listing. It's really, at the end of the day, connected in a very kludgy kind of way to Google Plus, which really never obviously took off as a social networking site. But Google gives those factors to you in getting found in SEO for ranking in search. And what's a really cool thing about Google My Business is that when you go in there and if you build out a comprehensive offering of your service hours and you build out a map in there of your service area, it will then spit out a report on a monthly basis to tell you how many phone calls you're actually generating from the website in Google search and how many times people search for your business. So it's an incredibly important and it's an incredibly powerful tool. Another tool for ranking, helping you to rank high, again, we're just going to stay in the Google landscape, Google Search Console. So submitting your website to the Search Console basically submits it to being searched and crawled by Google, which is, again, really incredibly important because Google has, well, just for lack of getting too deep in the technical landscape, crawlers that go out and scrub your website that basically will look for keywords and index it. And then it's also working against speed test, name, address, and phone number. And these are key elements. And if you do these fundamentals and you take care of these fundamentals, your web page is actually going to elevate in search. I would go to Google Maps. I do go to Google Maps. I build out a public facing map. This is something that you also want to embed at the bottom of your website. And by doing this in your service area, again, you're going to impact search on Google. Signing up for a free Google Analytics site. And what's really cool about WordPress is that a lot of the plugins allow you to just basically natively do this. Squarespace will allow you to do that as well. Google Analytics is an incredibly powerful free tool that gives you the ability to be able to peer in on how many people are coming to your website, what the acquisition looks like, how much time they're spending, what pages they're looking at. So again, a free tool that gives you the ability to be able to manage against your business. And then local listings management. If 93%, and I've heard as low as 80% of web traffic obviously comes through Google search, you've got another 20% of the landscape that's out there. There are different sites. There are still people today that use yellowpages.com, Yelp, Foursquare, Facebook, Google, Bing, Yahoo Local, to Angie's List to basically find things about your business. And you could go through and you could claim a free local listings with each one of these businesses. The more places you're showing up on the web, the better opportunity that you have to obviously rank on the first page of Google. The other thing that you can do is that you can go out to companies like Moz Local, Bright Local, Yext, and they actually are citation building and keyword ranking tools that will allow you to see how your keywords rank, how you would populate and search, and then they will also actually build out, they'll actually help you to build out these citations as well. And then last but not least, there's all sorts of call tracking technology that's out here as well today that gives you the ability to be able to order up phone numbers, to be able to track to see where your phone calls are coming from. So if Google's not getting it done for you, you could use third-party software. So that's the basics and the fundamentals of how you need to look at approaching your strategy in order to be able to rank on the first page and first placement of Google. And I look at that process of being about a 30-day process from start to finish for you to be able to get into, for you to be able to get yourself into the conversation. So we're about 20 minutes in. And what I want to do now is I want to launch our first poll. And kind of what I did is I actually built 3 polls into one. So what I want to do is if you could just take a moment, we've got a lot of people obviously on the line today. You should be seeing the polling questions, and this gives us some opportunity to engage with you. There's 3 questions. The first one is, which best describes your digital marketing strategy? And looking for about 80% of you to participate in our poll. What's your digital strategy? Which best describes it? The question, solid. We create awareness and generate leads. We've got a good program. Just need to fill in a few of the gaps. We are still working on our digital marketing strategy. The second question that we're looking for you to answer is, what's the best tactic for converting online visitors into customers? Is this your SEO, social media, pay-per-click, email? Not exactly sure. Other. Again, if you could just take a minute. And then the third question is, what marketing sales technologies are you currently looking to replace over the next 6 to 12 months? Are you trying to grab? And you can actually answer as many of these questions as you would like, or that one's multiple answers. So I'm going to leave that polling question open for just a few more minutes because we've got 3 of them. I'm going to continue on and talking about developing a digital strategy. So all the things that come into this, one of the things I want everybody to keep in mind, that you can go out there right now and you can Google what conversion looks like for your industry. Just type in online lead conversion. And the general statistics across the board are generally between 1 to 3% on e-commerce, and it doesn't get much higher, across various industries. If you're actually getting 3 to 5% of your web traffic to convert from a visitor to a lead to an opportunity to a win, you're doing really well. I would tell you this, that we set a parameter at DOYO Live to basically track conversion based upon the number of people that visit our registration page and not necessarily based upon our website. And we generally have about a 5% conversion rate based upon those figures. But all the things that come into figuring out what your ROI is going to be is understanding what the average selling price is of your products across the board, identifying how much web traffic is out there. What's your tactic and your strategy going to be? Is it going to be a content marketing play? Is it going to be a pay-per-click play? And we're going to get into that here in a minute. What's the lead gen? Do you have squeeze pages or landing pages that ask people to opt in? And then are you going to classify your lead generation based upon some sort of qualification tactic? So this all obviously plays into the strategy perspective. So I'm going to get Deanna back.
Yeah, I'm glad.
Deanna,
you know what? Before you ask a question, I see the very last thing we're talking about is the MQL to SQL. And I just want to explain that because there may be somebody on that really doesn't have any idea what that means. And the MQL is the marketing qualified leads, and SQL is the sales qualified leads. So basically what that means is, you come up with these digital marketing strategies, and maybe you have like an email campaign and you're asking them to do something that maybe you're not, right? But the marketing qualified lead is like an engaged lead. It's when an end user initiates like that engagement with you. And maybe they sign up for your email list or your ebook or something like that. The sales qualified lead is when you continue that engagement. And the reason I'm mentioning that, not only for you to understand, is I think a lot of times when we create these digital strategies, sometimes we get like this list, this database of people who have already reached out to us on some level and expressed an interest, but we don't follow up with them. We don't continue that engagement. So I think that's really a big part of this digital strategy. You know, you can create the strategy, but we need to follow up as well with them.
That's a good point. I'm glad that you jumped in, and jump in at any time, by the way, because you know me at this point. I'll just keep rambling on. So no, that's a very good point. We do have, I want to tell everybody too, we have a chat. You're able to actually get engagement interaction with all panelists and attendees. And I've actually allowed to set up the chat, so allow attendees to chat with all panelists and attendees as well. So I think that you can actually chat with one another and us. So I encourage you to do that as well. We want to make this a community thing. We want to make this engaging as possible. A lot of marketing talk. Last night when I was finalizing putting the presentation together, I was Googling something about a balance scale. And for whatever reason, when you type in scale into a royalty-free image site that I use called Pexels, you get an iguana. And I found that to be rather interesting. I think it's because of the scales. Anyway, back to the marketing talk. So this is where we start getting into strategy. And at the end of the day, what I like to do is I like to say that we want to live really on the left-hand side. And I'm gonna do this for a second. I like to live on this left-hand side here with the blog, webinar, ebook, case study, email marketing, public relations, SEO, a sound SEO strategy with social media and events. And the reason is that because I own this, I don't have to I have to keep feeding it content, and I have to keep investing time, and I have to keep getting creative. But on the other side, over here on the right-hand side, what you're looking at is basically all paid for advertising that's online. And it runs similar to that of traditional advertising, which is typically, obviously, another reason why we do digital marketing is because the cost-effective nature, it's where the eyeballs are, it's scalable. And you run out of money from a budgeting perspective with billboards and TV and radio and newspapers. So that obviously gets difficult. Not going to go out and buy $1.5 million 30-second ad during the Super Bowl. But feeding the beast on the right-hand side with native advertising, pay-per-click, can be an effective way to approach your marketing strategy, putting money into social posts. However, at the end of the day, what I want to do is I want to try to basically, at the inception, I may have to pay to get the engagement that I'm looking for. But there are ways, and we've done webinars before, where if you kick off a webinar strategy mixed with email marketing, you could start to generate leads within 30 to 45 days with a content marketing strategy. I'm going to pause there. And Deanna, what's your take on, obviously, implementing a content strategy? You work with clients of all sizes and natures. What's some of the pushback or some of the challenge that you get from organizations that, you have this conversation about, developing the strategy in the blue versus the red?
Well, I don't know if it's so much pushback. I guess some of the biggest concerns are on the red, right? You're looking for almost immediate results. They're looking for something to happen quick, but you really want to be in the blue section, right? Because that's longer term. That's going to be more organic of creating a reach and creating your fan base, but it comes with time. It's not an overnight occurrence. It takes a lot of time. Writing blogs is really a great tool, right? But let's be real, sitting down and writing blogs takes up so much of your time, right? But it's such an important piece in your marketing strategy.
Good blog, right? A good blog is going to take, it could take you 2 to 8 hours, depending on if you're going to research it. And people vacillate between going back in between a 300 to 500 word blog that's short form content to now I'm seeing the trend going back to the 1,500 word blog that really will get indexed with all the keywords that are going to be in there from a Google perspective. So it can be very time consuming to do it consistently over the long haul, to not see really results immediately.
Right, right. But ultimately, it's the blue side. Like you said, it's the blue side that's going to bring in those long-term results. The right side is just going to be short-term fixes.
Yep. Yep, absolutely. So when you set out on this strategy, trying to understand your audience and how people digest the content and what do they interact with? Are they an ebook, webinar, case study type of business? Are they reading blogs? Maybe they listen to podcasts. I left that off there. Email marketing is still is the strongest way to convert. And we're going to talk about email marketing in a moment. First thing I want to jump into is social media, everybody's favorite topic. What do you, it's a distribution channel. It's an engagement channel. It's a community channel. It's an entertainment channel. It's all of these things above that give you an opportunity to go out and create an engagement with an audience. Obviously, a lot of changes coming to Facebook. I'll tease the webinar that we're doing on January 31st now, that we'll come back to talk about those things. But Deanna, when I sit down and talk with people and I say, look, content marketing strategy is a 6 to 12 month play. We can put a webinar on the map and generate some business for you much quicker. And then you start to pull in the fact that they want to be on social media. And I try to give them the cascade approach of show up, dominate, get good at one social media platform and move on to the next. Right. What do you say to the client that says they want to be on 5 social media platforms day one?
I guess I just ask why. What's the reasoning behind that? Because you don't have to be on, first off, you need to be where your demographic is. You need to be where your market is. So it's important to understand who your market truly is. You don't have to be on every single platform. And I agree completely with you. Start with one, solid at that, build up that fan base, and then go to the next one if you need to, depending on what that is. But it's unnecessary to be on everything at one time.
All right, social media platforms. I'm going to wake up some of our guests. How many social media platforms is your business currently on? So I'm putting a message in the chat. Hopefully I could get some response back. I want to know how many social media platforms your business is on today. I think that if any business is out there, that it's incredibly important to make sure that you've got a sound, solid LinkedIn platform. And it's so funny, like what's becoming in vogue again. I thought LinkedIn's always been a consistent, and then all of a sudden I just read an article yesterday that like LinkedIn's getting hot, and so it's interesting. People forget about Pinterest is
Pinterest is a
great social, right?
Sorry.
I mean, like people forget about like, we get so caught up in all kinds of crazy stuff, and so anyway, social media is definitely a part of the digital landscape. Email marketing is a huge part of the digital landscape. And the reason is that you obviously need to grow your email list. You have different ways of doing that. The content and all of the activities can help to build your list. There are list buying services out there, but the detriment to that is that it's a volume play. And you also have to question the legality of Can-Am spam laws because of the fact that you could be in violation. Obviously, if you were to purchase a list, it's a necessity that in that first initial email that you disclose where you got their information from, and they get the opportunity to opt out. And even then, it's still walking a very fine line. Blog areas of your website give you the opportunity to be able to opt in, to be able to get engagement. Deanna, any spots I'm missing? What would you add? What's a good lead listing, list building tactic that you use?
I do challenges that, sign up for my challenge, like my monthly challenge to grow my email list.
I think that, you know what, I think you're probably dialed in from your computer, so I have a little bit of a hard time hearing that particular answer. I think it was kind of buffered against streaming, so hopefully that clears up a little bit. Can you reiterate that?
I said one of the things that I use to grow my email list are challenges. Like I'll have sign up for my weekly challenge or my monthly challenge.
I sound like I'm in line at the McDonald's. Yeah, it's just. I think we're in a rough patch.
All right.
The other thing that you could do from a list perspective is that you can mine your data in your CRM. You could go out to your sales organization. You have to be careful with this because anytime that you ask your sales organization to download their contact list, people get a little bit nervous because that's usually a sign of some change coming down the path. But if it's to build an email list, and you're transparent about that, that can help. The other thing that you can do is you can actually download your LinkedIn contacts as another way of generating some list growth. Statistics out there point to email marketing having for every dollar you spend on email marketing, it generates $38 in return. And so the reason why there's so much upside with email is that you own your database, right? That's portable, that's going with you. It's not subjected to a platform change. So those of you that know that Facebook business pages are under duress with the recent development of last Thursday, a week ago, you don't have to worry about algorithmic changes to email. Social media cannot compete with that. It's communication on demand. All businesses still function with operating off of email exchange. Yes, they use chat, but at the end of the day, it's how the business world communicates. Consumers utilize it to find promos and specials, data insights. You get opens, you get click-through rates. You can test subject lines, content, conversion, and you're going to definitely reach your mobile audience. So these are all the reasons that email has a huge upside, and it makes sense to try to invest in different ways that you can grow your email list as big as you could possibly grow it. There obviously are different tools that are out there. Constant Contact, MailChimp, Emma. If anybody saw my post on LinkedIn yesterday, I've been investigating some different platforms because I feel like we're growing out of MailChimp. What are you using? Are you using Constant Contact? We got a lot of people, by the way, talking about what platforms that they're using from a social media perspective. I could use your help. Are you using Constant Contact, MailChimp, Active Campaign? If you could put in the chat, tell me what you're using. That would be great to know. So Deanna, do you have a preference here?
You know what? I use MailChimp, but I have to agree with you. It seems like I'm outgrowing it, and I notice and we've talked about this before, sometimes there's some little kinks in the system when you're trying to set up different groupings and segments. But I do use MailChimp. Some of my clients I use Constant Contact with, but those are the two main ones that I'm using. But I love that you just asked us, everybody, because I'm curious as well what everyone uses. We're
getting a lot of MailChimp and Constant Contact seem to own the marketplace. Although we've got some Aweber and All Day, which is pretty interesting. I actually put these slides out of place. But what I want to tell you about is, I want to tell you about the DOYO Live strategy. So this is something that's replicatable into your business. And so that this has been the strategy from day one, is that we want slow organic growth year over year. Our goal initially at our first conference was to get 150 people to sign up to come to the event. And we ended up getting 200 people. And then in year two, we were looking for 50% growth, and we actually made that to 300 people. So we achieved that. And the way that I set out to achieve this is basically to generate interesting, compelling content on a consistent basis that's going to educate our audience on marketing strategy. Like, there's nothing that is sexy about that. We're going to leverage online mediums to distribute that, grow our audience, and just try and bring value in that landscape on a day-to-day basis, and do that consistently. People are looking for the magic bullet, but every business has the opportunity to have expertise in their space to go out and start creating content to educate people, to build the community, to be the recognized resource, to show up on the first page of Google. And it really comes down to, again, coming back to two things: fundamentals and consistency. We wanted to create a community. Yes, there's bells and whistles there. You know, we survey to do things that we get our feedback. We put an influencer model in place to where our product, our breakout session leaders, really at the end of the day contribute content to the platform. They grow their brand, we grow our brand. So we did leverage influencers in that content strategy. We create a win-win for both them and our sponsors, and that's key because the fact that our sponsors are coming back and seeing value in that. And then we have to have a great product. And at the end of the day, our product becomes our annual conference. And we just really want to have an amazing event that's high energy where you can learn, share, and grow at that event. And if we do all those things, again, on a consistent basis, we build mind share with our people. If you are an industrial company that does, lubrication, like for pumps on heavy manufacturing, educate the marketplace on a consistent basis about what it is, about what you need to look for, what you need to do, how do you save money, reverse engineer the topics and show up and do it every day. What happens is a month in, 3 months in, 6 months in, 12 months in, people give up too soon. They don't figure out where they can land the conversion. And that obviously becomes a very big aspect to it. And then the other thing that I wanted to point out to you is these are a little bit out of order. It does become a technology play. So what I'm sharing with you right now, and I would ask you to kind of go through and audit your own business, is we're using 20 or so applications, little DOYO Live, a little 1 to 3 person operation to manage our business online. Everything that you see here is everything from free to kind of the Netflix model of the web where you pay, $5-10 a month. Advanced Marketing Institute. This is a really cool thing that you can go and test emotional headlines for subject matter in social media and email marketing. Grammarly checks my homework and it doesn't get my ego hurt. My wife was my content editor, but that was causing a lot of problems because of the fact that I didn't spell so good. So I got Grammarly. It highlights all the things that I spell wrong that are outside of a Microsoft application. SpeechPad is a transcriptioning service that is, this hour-long webinar, I can get this transcribed into the written context for $50. Zapier is a really cool automation tool that lays in between all of this technology to where, like, I can set this up that if you registered for this webinar on Zoom, which we just switched from GoToWebinar, I can set Zapier up to actually have you automatically added to a MailChimp list, which is super cool. Like, I don't have to do that anymore. Meetup, $25 a month. We do monthly meetups, and it helps me to get that audience to promote different things. We have a WordPress site. We utilize Eventbrite for our event for scheduling. I leverage HubSpot's CRM, Adobe Spark for mobile application and redoing creative stuff. Pexels, that's my go-to for free, royalty-free images. I've got Promo to make videos. I get 4 per month. I leverage Google Analytics. Flipboard as a content aggregator. G2 as a technology resource. Deanna, what would you add to this?
Wow. Well, you know what? I love the stuff that you put on here, and I use a lot of the same content. There's one I was thinking of, and I don't know how much everybody else would use it, but I have a Google extension it's an extension on Check My Links, and it will actually go through their website, and whether it's my website or somebody else's, and pick up all the broken links. So sometimes when I'm looking at someone's website to evaluate it or redo it, or even my own with blogging, it does a quick scan and tells me which links are broken, which is like such a time saver instead of actually going through everything and checking it manually.
That's really cool, Deanna. That's a really helpful one to know. And so that there's always a bright, big, new, shiny tool out there. And I have actually been in technology, IT sales in a former life. I've sold social media listening software, EMR, EHR, radiology IT systems. and actually inbound call center CRM solutions as well. I've done a little bit of everything in that space. And this chart, what you're looking at today, is the $7.4 billion marketing technology landscape. It's why a marketing conference like DOYO Live continues to evolve and exist, because these platforms change on such a consistent basis. The fundamentals of storytelling and marketing and the 4 Ps, which I like to defer to the 3 Ps, all those things are always going to be consistent with marketing, but the delivery platforms and what's out there has changed at such a rapid basis. And so, my advice to you on this landscape is, everything looks great in a demo environment. Technology, what ends up happening is that you end up shifting and allocating your resource from whatever manual process, because all technology vendors sell off the premise of it's going to help you save time, maximize revenue, eliminate waste. And at the end of the day, you end up having to manage the technology sometimes more than you have to manage the business. And so be cautious of that. But between that, marketing automation software, social media management tools, the local search tools that will help you get found in search, email content, there's no shortage of that along the pathway. The other thing that I wanted to tell people out of the go-to resources that are, Deanna and I talk about this a lot, but my go-to resources, and I'm selfishly and shamelessly going to put DOYO Live into this conversation. And the reason is that we have multiple contributors from breakout session leaders that have true expertise in the industry. Last year we had 8 people that presented out of like 20 at our conference that have presented at some of the largest, most prestigious marketing conferences in the country, contributing consistently to our platform. So I like to believe that we're a resource that can educate you on marketing. I love people like Neil Patel, Gary Vaynerchuk, Amy Porterfield, Social Media Today, Examiner. These are all great resources. Up in the right-hand corner, Content Marketing Institute, founded by Joe Polizzi, our year 1 keynote. So these are some places that you can go to get access to experts and true expertise in the marketing space. Am I leaving anybody out on that there, Deanna?
Well, there's a ton of them that are that are out there, but I think those are the big ones. I know I use Social Media Examiner, and of course you, Dennis.
Yeah, breaking news last week, and I've met Michael Stelter at Content Marketing World, and it's amazing to see the conference that they've built in San Diego, where 4,000 people show up, and he actually broke the news about the Facebook update, and they went line by line through Mark Zuckerberg's big announcement, and it looked like people were studying. I haven't looked at copy that closely since I was like a sophomore in college studying like Plato's Allegory of the Cave, and they're trying to read through the tea leaves of what is going on rattling upstairs there. But 250,000 views of that video on Social Media Examiner, so it was obviously well played by him. But in any case, Deanna and I are teamed up for a digital deep dive workshop, all day immersive, 10 hours. We're going to hang out. We're limiting this to 12 people. Actually, I can go out and grab the link. I could put this in here, but we've got a special kind of webinar offer here as well. What the webinar offer is that if you sign up for the all-day immersive deep dive workshop, let me find the DOYO Live. We are actually going to throw in a ticket to DOYO Live, which is a big value. Our early bird tickets right now are $150, and so you'll get the 10-hour digital deep dive immersive workshop put on by Deanna and myself. This is where we're going to sit down around the table. We're going to talk about your strategy. We're going to share some of these technology tips, things that you should be doing, ways you can optimize. And then in addition to that, you get a ticket to come to DOYO Live on August 2nd. And Deanna, you're throwing out there too. You've got your social
the startup
coaching circle on the startup circle on Facebook. You're going to throw in.
I'm throwing in a year membership. Yes. for anyone who signs up from this workshop to go to the digital deep dive workshop. Yeah, and the Startup Circle is an online membership, for those of you who don't know, where I am teaching everything I know. It's a monthly subscription. The value of the year is $270, so you would get that as included with being part of the membership. But there is I do group coaching sessions and anything that happens. Like when everything happened with Facebook and the changes, I immediately went right into the group. We have a Facebook page just for the members and shared what that meant for their business. So you have access to me and like-minded entrepreneurs and business owners immediately for anything you need to know about your business. So it's a pretty cool thing.
So ton of value there, right? So all day immersive deep dive, 12 people only. We're going to hold this in Boardman, Ohio, and then you get a ticket to DOYO Live and the Startup Circle. So you take advantage of that. I need questions. Hopefully, Deanna, between myself and Deanna, we can have answers. We'd love to hear what questions that you have. Been paying attention to the chat throughout the course of today, and I want to thank everybody again for jumping on to this webinar. Hope that you are finding this content to be valuable. We had one last month on going live on Facebook. We are recording these, so we plan to repurpose the content as best as we possibly can. In the meanwhile, while you think of some great questions to ask us, I don't have any just yet, but we'd love to get a question in here. We also have a webinar coming up on January 31st. The sky is not falling, people. There are changes coming to, obviously, Facebook pages for business. But what we're going to do in that webinar, and I need to grab the link to that as well. So you've got a couple different choices, everything from continuing on with the free education to signing up for something along the way. Is that we have a webinar on January 31st on the changes that have been, and you can just sign up for that right here as well. That's going to be free. And basically what we're going to do is that we're going to talk to you about how you can overcome these challenges with live video, user-generated content, advertising, those sorts of things that you're still going to be able to leverage the platform. Any pace. Again, I'd love to hear what questions that you have on digital strategy, what's working, what's not working, what you need to do in order to be able to grow your email list. Is social media part of that play? Content aggregators, technology questions. What do you want to know, from us? And we'll make sure that we take the time. So, got a question coming in from, let's see here. Who do I want to take? Okay. So, Deanna, question that I have is, when you build out a WordPress site, what are some of the plugins that are your go-to WordPress plugins that help with search engine optimization on the site?
I may slaughter some of the names, but I'll give you an idea. It's hard to remember because when you go to them, it auto fills in the ones. The first one I always do, and it's the child Themify, to create a child site, so that if WordPress, and I'm still shocked at how many times, if I'm doing a redesign from somebody, that they're not making.
I think that the computer connections. Yeah, I think the computer connections kind of getting the best of us on this one. It was just really choppy again. So.
Oh no! Last time my phone rang like 2 seconds after, so I thought maybe I had a call coming through that like. Remember before? Can you hear me at all or no? No, you can't.
Well, listen. I want to thank you, Deanna, for obviously dropping.
Oh, well, they can hear me.
Oh, they can hear you.
Dennis.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
As long as they can hear you, we're good. all that matters.
All right. So child themify first off, because you want to create a child theme. I'm going to answer that real quick before we get any questions. But that way, if the person who created your original theme makes updates to it, you're not going to lose all your work. So I do that one definitely, so that it's saved, and when I do my backups, everything works. SEO Yoast is another one, and I really like that one because it guides you through. It scans and lets you know how optimized your site is at each page that you're doing for search engine optimization and also readability. So at the very bottom, when you scroll down on each of those pages, it gives you like red, yellow, and green. Red means like you totally stink at this. Yellow means you kind of got it. Green means you're great. But it tells you how to fix it. So it's such a good tool, and it kind of keeps you in line to tweak it as you go. And of course then, well, Google Analytics, I always use that plugin because I'm a nerd and I can spend forever. If I don't put a time limit on Google Analytics, like I can just like hang out there forever, slicing and dicing all those numbers. But
I'll tell you which one I really love.
Go ahead.
I tell you which one I really love, and I like Yoast, by the way. I really like Google XML sitemap integration on WordPress. So if you've never gone through and did a sitemap of your website, it's a must-have. It's a must-do. It's a tedious, technical pain in the you-know-what. Like, it is just mind-numbing work. I mean, that honestly, if this isn't like for me to, I'd pay anybody anything to have to tackle that for me, or anytime that I've worked with somebody to do that. And when the day that I found the WordPress plugin that you can just go grab the XML site plugin, you hit the application and it basically site maps your website, was an amazing day.
Isn't it great when you get those little victories? It's like, and you get so excited about it and you want to tell somebody and you just get that like blank stare. Like, and that's so right. Cause my life, at this point with, personally with 4 children, saying that out loud is crazy. Running DOYO Live, consulting and having a print publication, everything for me is about time. And I will tell you that Zapier is one that I've come across it's not an SEO plugin or plugin for WordPress, although there are WordPress plugin applications to Zapier. It does so many things that I'm only scratching the surface. I think I told you the other day, like I came across this really cool thing with Zapier where I can link it to my Google Docs, and I could do a Instagram to a Google Docs Excel sheet to where I can grab all recent pictures and put those into a Google Drive. I can do recent followers into an Excel spreadsheet, and I could do things with hashtags. It's all integrated. Like I don't have to go out and I don't have to study Instagram because I set up Zapier to basically do that for me. And that is awesome.
It's ridiculously good.
That's really cool.
Like we have monthly meetups. We have one coming up in February, coffee and content and coffee. I can now just go to Zapier and align that with Meetup and like just do it all in one spot. It's incredible. It's a great tool. But listen, we're at the top of the hour. I can keep going on about these different applications all day long. Deanna, thank you so much for dropping by today. Whether or not you come to the Immersive Digital Deep Dive and want to take advantage of, obviously, the incentive with the DOYO Live ticket and the Startup Circle, grab yourself a seat on our next webinar. And if you don't want to do all of the above, check out Deanna's Startup Circle. There's a lot of valuable things that go on with that community that she's doing. It's very impressive. Taking it on Facebook taking it offline and meeting up in person. And I think I know that you're really going to enjoy that. And with that said,
Thank you.
Thanks everybody for dropping by today with whatever you got going on in your day. Stay warm out there. And that concludes our webinar for today. Thank you.